share something real quick. I shared earlier. Stress comes from trying to control something outside of ourselves. We accept our limitations and operate within our realm of control and trust Yah with all other outcomes. We're empowered with peace and enabled to rest in our present reality. Something that spoke to me earlier, just about we try to control so many things, you know what I mean, that are outside of us. You know, we try to control people's thoughts and perceptions of us, or we try to control how something's going to turn out, or, you know, we're trying to figure things out in our mind, you know, and y'all was just like, let those things go. Then you can be in peace right now, you know, and because you can't control it anyway. You know what I mean? You have no control over those things outside of yourself, you know, and you're weighing yourself down trying to, you know what I mean? So you're not accomplishing anything by doing that other than you're stressing yourself, you know, but let it go and just allow it to be what it's going to be, and then just be at peace, you know, in that moment, you know, be at peace with what is and what you do have control over, you know, which is a very small realm, you know, having to do with ourselves and how we, you know, and you can just come to peace. So y'all had to remind me of that. So I just wanted to share.
Amen. Thank you.
That's a good one. All of us need to be reminded of that.
So tonight we're going to talk about getting ready for the spring feast.
Yes.
So we're right next weekend we'll be going into the new year, the scriptural new year. We're in the spring. This week has been like beautiful outside. The sun has been out, and you know, that's my the sun is my very bestest friend.
That's right.
So this week has been beautiful. The sun's been out. You know, the trees are, you know, coming forth. So we're in the spring season. The new year for us is coming up, and then that means we're coming into the feast of the new year. So we're coming to the spring feast. So y'all laid this on my heart, being sure that we're getting ready, that we're prepared to enter into the feast. And I had on paper about spring cleaning. So it's funny, like this time of year, people are doing spring cleaning, you know, just in the world in general. It's like, all right, the winter time is, you know, you're putting away the wintertime stuff, you're purging things out, you know, you're throwing stuff away, you know, so just in general, people are doing spring cleaning in just our regular natural lives. But it's in line with what this time of the year is. You're coming out of one season, you're coming out of darkness, coldness, hibernation, all those things, and you're coming forth into a new season where new things are coming forth, and new, you're shedding off, you know, things. You're coming to a new place. So spring cleaning, clearing out the old and dead things. We're shedding, we're purging, we're making room for the new harvest that are coming forth. Because it's been a season of darkness where things were under the surface. We talk about how things are growing under the surface and things are happening. And now we're coming to a season where it's starting to manifest itself. Things are coming forth. It's budding. So it's new things. We talked about how the spring feast that we're coming to is connected to the harvest. So there's harvests that are coming up, and we have to be able to make room for the things that are coming from that harvest. So we know when we come into the feast, we start off with Passover. So Passover connected to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we know with unleavened bread, we're told to remove the leaven. So part of our thing is to remove the leaven out of our houses. You know, we know that it's a natural representation and also a spiritual thing that's happening. So it's all coinciding with the same season of time that we're in. So some things that the Spirit impressed upon me that to bring to our remembrance of things as we're going into the season, so that we're prepared in our hearts to be able to partake of the season. So let's turn to Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, verse 48. verse 48, and when a stranger sojourns with you, and shall perform the pesach to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and perform it, and he shall be as a native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it. So for the Passover, all the males had to be circumcised in order to take part of the Passover. So all of Israel should have been circumcised already. But he's saying when somebody else comes amongst you, they need to also be circumcised to be able to partake of the Passover.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that so that was the physical circumcision. And we know that the physical and the spiritual go together. Let's turn to Deuteronomy 10. Deuteronomy chapter 10. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 16. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and harden your neck no more. So we see circumcision, we know that it's a physical act, but then it's also a spiritual act. And it's not just a New Testament or Brit Hadashah concept that is, now it's the heart, but even in this time, as I went to the verse in Deuteronomy, in this time it was understood that circumcision was also something that had to do with the heart. So the circumcision represented that for the children of Israel, that you were part of the covenant. So it meant that you are in covenant with Yah. If you are circumcised, you're part of Israel. You're part of the covenant. But it's possible to be part of the covenant, but then your heart not be circumcised. And that's what Yahuwah constantly talked to the children of Israel about, was their hearts not being circumcised. So in this verse he's saying, you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, that flesh, part of your neck no more. So he's telling them to cut back the flesh, not just from your flesh, but to cut back the flesh that's on your heart. So that's the principle that he's trying to pull out of here, is to pull back those things and to cut back the flesh. And I was asking y'all, I was like, so, because it says for the Passover to make sure that all the males are circumcised, and that's the only feast that it says that for. And I was like, yeah, why is that the only feast? I was like, well, duh, that's the first feast. And then at that point, it prepares you to enter into the whole, because the feast days talk about the whole process of salvation and the whole process of Yah's deliverance. So it starts with the Passover. It starts with the Passover, and at that point, you're prepared to enter into the whole process of salvation and walk into. So before you can enter, so in entering in, you have to get right. You have to be circumcised in the flesh, but circumcised in the heart to be able to partake of that. So when y'all's telling us that they need to be circumcised before they partake of the Passover, anybody that comes in needs to be circumcised. He's saying that your hearts need to be right. You need to be in a heart of entering into this covenant, because there's no point of partaking of the Passover if you're not. You can't. It's not something that you just do haphazardly. Like, I'm just partaking of the whole lamb. That's that's the blood is covering. Like there's a heart, cutting back of the flesh of the heart. There's a heart change. A circumcision represents a change. It's a change in the flesh. It's a change in the heart. So you're cutting back the flesh, and you're allowing Yah to do a transformation. So that has to take place. So when you're entering into this covenant, when you're entering into Yah's process of deliverance, there's something that has to take place within you, and then you're prepared to enter in. So this is for the children of Israel in Egypt. This is for when looking at Yahusha coming into him in salvation. But then we're looking at us as we enter into the season of the feast. And we're going to read more scriptures, but as we come into the season, looking at our hearts to say, are we of our hearts, or the flesh of our hearts being cut back? Are we in a right heart place before we enter into this partaking of the Pesach?
That's good. That's very good.
So let's flip back to Exodus and look at chapter 13. Exodus chapter 13, verse 3. Moshe said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. For by strength of hand, Yahuwah brought you out of this place. And whatever is leavened shall not be eaten. So as he's telling them to remember this time, remember how Yah's brought them out. He's saying so Yah's brought them out, so as they go, whatever is leavened is not to be eaten. So they're going to eat bread that has no leaven in it, that it's not risen up. And that verse always connects to me when Yahusha, you think about when Yahusha dealt with people, when he dealt with them, after he would heal them or deal with them with their sins, whatever it was, or usually he was healing them, he would say, go and sin no more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like he's healing them. Why would he tell them to go and sin no more? That to me connects to this where it says, I've brought you out. Now don't eat whatever has leaven in it. Don't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put that back in you. Don't put this in you, this thing in you that's going to cause you to sin.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So when Yahushua would heal, he would tell them, all right, I've healed you. I've done this, whatever. Now go and sin no more. You know. So that's the walking out of what was being shown here when we're removing the leaven.
That's good.
Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 5. So this is Paul, and he is dealing in 1 Corinthians with different issues in the assembly. 1 Corinthians 5, I'm going to start at verse 6. So he says in verse 6, your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the entire lump? So he's saying here that he's putting that principle out here, that a little bit of leaven leavens the entire lump. So we talked about, when we talked about unleavened bread before, we talked about how they would take just a little bit. They would after they had a leavened lump, they'll take a little bit and they'll put it to the side, and then they'll add that to the other dough, and then that will cause that dough to rise up. So it didn't take a whole new thing. You would take a little bit from one and add it to the whole, and it would cause that to rise up. So he's pulling that principle out here. He's saying a little bit of leaven leavens the entire lump. Your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little bit of leaven leavens the entire lump? So he's saying this little bit that's going on amongst you will spread.
Yeah.
It'll puff up the whole thing. So he says, therefore cleanse out the old leaven, so that you are a new lump, as you are unleavened.
Yeah.
As we should be unleavened in Yahushua. For also Messiah our Pesach was slaughtered for us. So then let us celebrate the feast not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So he's talking to them about when they gather together for the feast, as it goes on here, and when they're gathering together, he's saying, let us celebrate it not with this old leaven of evil and wickedness, boasting, all these different things. And he talks about all these different things that are happening in their midst. And he's saying, like, we're not going to celebrate the feast with old leaven. It has all these puffed up things in it, because Yah has made us a new man. He's made us renewed. We're new in him. We're cut off the flesh, and now we're walking in the spirit. Yeah. So we're walking in the spirit of Yahushua. So as those who are walking in the spirit of Yahushua, he's saying, don't bring that old leaven back into this lump. Don't bring those old things, those old ways, those old ways of handling things, the old ways of thinking, the old ways of relating, these old ways of conducting your life. Don't bring those things into the new lump, because it's going to leaven the whole thing. If it's a little bit of it in the community, it's going to spread throughout the whole community, and it's going to just continue to grow. So he's saying, so when we celebrate the feast, we're not going to do it with that old leaven. We're going to do it with the unleavened bread of sincerity and of truth. So as those who are walking in the spirit, we're eating of the bread of truth. So as we're dealing with ourselves and with each other, we're walking in truth, and we're operating in truth, and that's the bread that we're constantly eating of, that truth and sincerity. So we're being sincere with one another, sincere in our walk, sincere with the things in our heart, and then we're operating in truth.
That's good.
Okay.
Yep, matters of the heart. Yeah.
So let's flip over to chapter 10. Still 1 Corinthians, chapter 10. And we're going to start at verse 14. Therefore, my beloved ones, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men. Judge for yourselves what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless is not a sharing in the blood of Messiah. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not a sharing in the blood of Messiah? The bread that we break, is it not a sharing in the body of Messiah? Because there is one bread, we who are many are one body, for we all partake of that one bread.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Yisrael after the flesh. Are not those who eat the slaughterings sharers in the slaughter place? What then do I say? That an idol is of any value, or that which is slaughtered to idols is of any value? No, but what the nations slaughter, they slaughter to demons and not to Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not wish you to become sharers with demons. So that what he's talking about in the context of this, what he's talking about is they sacrificing stuff to idols. So he's going to talk about them eating, and when they're eating some foods, sacrifice to idols and not partaking in that. So, and beginning this, he started off telling them to flee from idolatry. But he says, verse 21, you are not able to drink the cup of the master and the cup of demons.
Mm-hmm.
You are not able to partake of the table of the master and the table of demons. Do we provoke the master to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? All is permitted me, but not all do profit. All is permitted me, but not all builds up.
Mm-hmm.
Let no one seek his own, but each one that of the other.
Mm-hmm.
So he's telling them that you can't partake of these two cups, these two tables, at the same time. There can't be that mixture. So you can't eat of the table of the world, of the demons, of these other things that are not Yah,
Yeah.
and then eat and drink of the same cup at the same time. So he's telling them, so it's the same type of principle. He's dealing with specifically here with idolatry, but he's bringing out the principle that you can't do both at the same time. So before coming to the table, before coming to partake of the feast and the pesach, and sitting at that table to partake of Yahusha, and partake of that bread, and partake of that blood and that drink, we can't eat off of two tables at the same time. So we can't come with that bread of insincerity and that bread of deception and wickedness, but then also bringing the sincerity and truth at the same time. It doesn't work. So we can't drink from one and from the other at the same time. Let's flip over to chapter 11. And apparently it was a whole lot of stuff going on in the Corinthian church, a whole lot of stuff. Chapter 11, verse 17. And in declaring this, I do not praise you, since you come together not for the better but for the worse. For in the first place, I hear that when you come together as an assembly, there are divisions among you, and to some extent I believe it. For there have to be factions even among you, so that the approved ones might be revealed among you. So he's talking about there being divisions amongst them.
Mm-hmm.
He says, so when you come together in one place, it is not to eat the master's supper. For when you eat, each one takes his own supper first, and one is hungry and another is drunk. He's saying they're coming together to eat, and you got one that's hungry, so they're coming coming greedy. You got one that's coming in drunk, they're already, He says, have you not houses to eat and drink in? Or do you despise the assembly of Elohim and shame those who have not?
Yeah.
What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you in this? I do not praise. For I received from the master that which I also delivered to you, that the master Yahusha, in the night in which he was delivered up, took bread, and having given thanks, he broke it and said, Take, eat, this is my body. Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, also the cup after supper, saying, this cup is the renewed covenant in my blood. As often as you drink it, do this in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the death of the master until he comes. so that whoever shall eat this bread or drink this cup of the master unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the master. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For the one who is eating and drinking unworthily eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the body of the master. Because of this, many are weak and sick among you, and many sleep. For if we are to examine ourselves, we will not be judged. But when we are judged, we are disciplined by the master, that we should not be condemned with the world. So then, my brothers, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. And if anyone is hungry, let him eat at home, lest you come together for judgment. And the rest I shall set in order when I come.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, sitting stuff in order.
Amen.
Yeah.
Stacking it deck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's giving them warning. So he's dealing with a, on a surface level, okay, some people are coming and they're being, they're hungry and they're, there are other people not getting to eat and they're not looking at each other's needs. So, it's a surface thing, it's an observation, of something that's happening, or the report must have came back to him, some people not eating, some people eating other people's food, they're showing up drunk and all these type of things. So he's getting the report of what's happening, but under the surface of that is showing the hearts of the people.
Yeah.
It's showing that they're not concerned for each other, that they don't even understand why they're getting together. They're clearly not, if you have the spirit of Yahusha and you understand what it is to partake of his body, then you will come a whole nother way. So it's showing that they don't even understand what they're partaking of.
Yeah.
And it's showing that they don't have that sense of community and that sense of love for each other.
Yeah.
That they don't have a sense of hospitality. All these things we've been talking about over the weeks, the hospitality to be able to make sure that everybody's okay.
Yeah.
So this is not their mindset at all. It's showing that their hearts are not circumcised and they're trying to partake of this, they're trying to partake of the bread and partake of the body of Yahusha, and they're not circumcised in the heart. So he's telling them, examine yourself. He's saying because of this, there's all these things, there's sickness going on, there's people are dying apparently, people are weak, all these things are going on in the body, and he's saying, examine yourself, examine your hearts. Before you come together, examine your hearts. And that's what Yahushua impressed upon me, was for us to examine our hearts, and to see what's in our hearts, and to constantly, that's why he has us go through this every year, so that we constantly are in a state. It's something that we should do always, day by day, week by week, but especially before we partake of the feast, it gives us another opportunity. That's why we have this season of getting the leaven out, so that we can have a season of examining our hearts and really things that we may sweep under the rug. Just like how you pick up the rug and get them crumbs out for the leaven. Like, what other things have we swept under the rug that we need to pull the rug back and be like, it's time to get these old crumbs up.
I had some sister teacher. Listen, don't you think just how we have to clean up our heart is each other's responsibility to heaven and lie? I've been noticing you do that. To kind of pull each other side away, because we can get our own stuff ready, but it's come like, you and I. I need something. I know what I need when I call you. I need you, and I know what you can give me. So we are willing. We're aware of one another's strengths and weaknesses. Then if we had it, and us to share with that person, that would have strengthened them and make them feel good to even in relationship with you, because they knew you could check them. Is that making sense?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely. And we're gonna talk about that some more too. Absolutely. That's the point of being in relationships, being able to do that, because we can't. Y'all's been showing me that. It's funny, it's personal, but I've been having issues with my back itching right in the part of my back that I can't reach. And I think that y'all's doing it on purpose, because he keeps showing me that there's. I'm like, y'all, why'd you make our back?
Yeah.
So that we can't completely reach it, you know what I mean? It's like, because to show you that you need somebody else, you know what I'm saying? If not for that one thing, I cannot reach it. I'm like, mama, it's like, I made you with things that you can't, there's things that you can't see. I made you to need somebody else and to have to rely on somebody else. Like there's a interdependence, you know what I'm saying, that I require you to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I made you that, even in that one little funny things, like I just want to remind you that you're not completely self-sufficient. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
You know, so he puts us in community. So what you said, Sister Lisa, was exactly, you know, that's exactly it, and that's ideal to be able to, you know, have those type of relationships where you can show somebody their blind spot, you know what I mean, in love, and be able to see and be able to give that and receive that, you know what I mean, and then you know, you're not walking around with, you know, you ever see kids go to class and they put a sticky on somebody's back and they walk around, everybody's laughing at them, they got the sticky on, you know, so you're not walking around like that because somebody can be like, hey, you got something going on with you, you know. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. This is very good.
I'm gonna, let me see. Amos chapter 5. Amos chapter 5. Verse 21. Yah is dealing with Yisrael. And in verse 21 he says, I have despised your feasts, and I am not pleased with your assemblies. Though you offer me ascending offerings and your grain offerings, I do not accept them, nor do I look on your fattened peace offerings. Take away from me the noise of your songs, for I do not hear the sound of your stringed instruments. And let right ruling roll on like water, and righteousness like a mighty stream. So he's telling them, so apparently Israel is going through the motions and doing what they're supposed to do. They're having feasts, they're having gatherings, they're singing songs to Yah, they're playing the instruments, they're doing all these things, and Yah says, I hate it. And he says, take it away from me, it's noise. So he's saying, instead of all of these things, what I want is for right ruling to come on. Let that roll. Let you guys judge righteously among you. This is what I want to see. Let righteousness, and righteousness like a mighty stream. So I want to see a flow, because both of these examples is talking about water. Let it roll on like water and like a mighty stream. I want to see a flow of right ruling, of righteousness, of things that are of Yah happening. Let me see that happening and flowing amongst you. And then the sound will go up and it'll be pleasing, and it's what he wants to hear. You know what I mean? And he can come and dwell in the midst of it. You know, because with this, Yah can't dwell in the midst of it. He's like, you're doing this to me and I can't come nowhere near it. Because it's not righteousness being uplifted. You're not operating. So we as a people have a tendency that we can do things on the outside. We can operate and do. So they're doing what they're obeying the commands and the statutes of, okay, you do the offering, you do this, you play the instruments, all these things. But their hearts are not circumcised. And they're serving Yah but they're not operating rightly among themselves. You know what I'm saying? But they're coming together with themselves. They're assembling to do this. They're not doing this individually at home. They're gathering together to do these things, but then they're not right with each other.
That reminds me of the scripture in John 4 where he says, they that worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth.
Spirit and in truth. Because the truth, what we talked about a few weeks ago, the word is like a sword that divides asunder soul and spirit, that gets into the midst of your heart and what's going on in it, and it makes division inside there. So when the word is operating, when truth is operating, it's going to make those divisions, and it's going to cause you to operate based on that. And when you have the spirit is going to cause, the spirit will bring those things to your remembrance. The spirit will prick your heart. You know, the spirit will, you're not right. You need to go talk to this person. You need to go do that. You know, the spirit will do that when we have the spirit, and when we're not quenching the spirit, and we're operating in truth, in His word, in His Torah.
When I was reading further down, and it was talking about how it said, did you bring me sacrifices and grain offerings during those 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? Certainly not. You carried along your king Succoth and Cain, your man-made gods of Saturn, your images of your star god, which you made for yourselves, but you brought me none of the appointed sacrifices. You know, and it's like, you know, so now you wanna be in the feast,
Right.
you know, but it's mixed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
mixed, and it goes back to what was before.
Yeah.
You know what we were talking about before
Yeah.
about you know, like my note here was like, you know, there's no reason to partake in the Passover if you haven't had a change of heart.
Yeah.
You know, and it, you know that mixing of both, you know,
Yeah.
both things.
Mhm.
You don't never like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you can't bring both. Like you just said that, like when we were talking about that. Can't bring both
Yeah.
before him,
Yeah.
and it becomes, you know, this is terrible. I can't receive, you know, I can't receive this because it's like
Mhm.
laced with.
Right.
Right,
It's
Right.
become toxic. It's become
It's
toxic.
right.
Right.
It's become
Yeah.
toxic.
Yeah.
And because you know, it's because when you read that, it's like, well, how could you hate? I'm doing it. How could you hate it? But it's like back to what you were saying.
It's
But
It's not sincere.
right,
Mhm.
right. It's not sincere.
Yeah.
You know, you just, I guess maybe just doing it to be doing it, or let's do it because God is gonna strike us down. But
Yeah.
you don't really.
Well, you know, when you get used to worshiping things, idols, you say certain things over and over again, and you do it, but you do it out of your flesh,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's like when we went to Jamaica for missions, the people would get saved readily. They would accept Yahusha, you know, readily.
Yeah.
But they'd have the black candles burning at the altar, and they'd have the sign of Messiah.
Yeah.
And they had the cross at the altar, you know. So it's like they so used to doing it, worshiping these other gods
Yeah.
that we'll receive him. This another god. We're gonna put him up here,
Yeah.
and you know, and worship
Yeah.
all of it, you know. And he's like, no, you still doing these other things, but you're saying you belong to me. You can't do that
All
if you
of
belong
it.
to me.
Right.
Yeah,
That's good.
and that's how they worshiped back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a good, because they had all these idols that don't, there's nothing behind the idols. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they
It's
can
just
they can
there.
conceive of themselves what they want to do.
Right.
Yah's the only one that's is personal. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's like he actually is going to examine your heart
Right.
and actually have a heart relationship with you. You know, so all these other
Right.
so they're
That's
they're used to all these other things where you worship as you see fit or however we've agreed to do,
Yeah.
but it doesn't check you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
So
right.
Yah's like bringing a whole different thing on the scene. Was like I know your heart. I made you. I'm the
Yes.
Yah, the creator Yah.
Yes.
I'm the one who made you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I see you. I see what's in your heart. So you have to come at me a different way. So they're like,
That's right.
I don't know what to do with that. Unless you come to
Right.
him, you have to come to him sincerely.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know.
ma'am.
Because you know that heart, man.
And two, sister, what about the heart being wicked? You know, in the New Testament, we're talking about, I'm thinking about heart, we can come together sincerely, but if our heart is wicked, it's going to be the word of God to fix that. Ain't it?
In the spirit.
In the spirit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's turn to Luke chapter 12. Chapter 12, verse 1. Meanwhile, when an innumerable crowd of people had gathered together, so that they trampled one another, he began to say to his taught ones, this is Yahushua talking, he began to say to his taught ones, first, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. So we talked about a couple weeks ago, we went through the scripture, it talks about all the different, when he's calling them hypocrites, he's calling them hypocrites. He's giving the different things that are going on. He says, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. So we're saying hypocrisy is part of the leaven that the Pharisees walk in.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a second. This is verse 2. And whatever is concealed shall be revealed, and whatever is hidden shall be known. So whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light, and what you have spoken in the ear in inner rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops.
Mm-hmm.
So let's turn to hold on to that. Turn to Matthew chapter 23. Matthew 23, verse 25. So this is in the middle of, we were reading a few weeks ago about all the woes he's saying to the scribes and the Pharisees. He's calling them hypocrites. You hypocrite. He's giving all these examples of how and why they're hypocrites, how they're doing one thing, they're saying one thing but doing something different, or they're partially obeying. So in verse 25 it says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are filled with plunder and unrighteousness. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, so that the outside then the outside of them becomes clean too. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly indeed look well, but inside are filled with dead men's bones and all uncleanliness. So you too outwardly indeed appear righteous to men, but inside you are filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness." So he's telling them the outside looks real good, and you focus on the outside.
Yeah.
But on inside, you have all this, your dead man's bones, the dish is empty, you're filled with plunder and unrighteousness. All these unclean things are inside the cup, or inside your heart, or inside of you. Or you're filled with all these things, but on the outside, you're doing all these things that look righteous to men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you look right on the outside. They talk about how they wore their garments and their things long, and how they like to be called these names, and how they did all these outward things. You know, so they look good, but on the inside, it was unrighteousness, all these things. So when we read over in Luke chapter 12, he told them, "Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy." They have this hypocritical way, and you see that when we read in Amos, when he talked about them, we just talked about them keeping the feast and all those things, but y'all was like, y'all hearts are not right.
Yeah.
That they were walking in that same leaven that the Pharisees are walking in during this time period. But Yahushua says to them, he's telling his disciples, "Beware of this leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy." This hypocrisy, but he's telling them, whatever is concealed shall be revealed, and whatever is hidden shall be known. Whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light, and what you have spoken in the ear and inner room shall be proclaimed on the housetop. So even though he's saying what's inside you is going to be revealed, so what you're doing, what you're saying, all these secret things that are going on is going to be brought out.
Yeah.
So he's saying that despite the inside of the cup being dirty, and despite the outside despite keeping things up on the outside, he's saying the things that are on the inside, he's speaking to his disciples now. He's speaking to those who follow me.
Yeah.
What's inside is going to be revealed. It's going to be brought out to the open. You know, so he's giving them warning. It's going to be revealed. It's going to be brought out. It's going to be what you said in the dark and then will be heard in the light. What you've spoken in the ear and the inner room shall be proclaimed on the housetops. So he's giving them warning. He's telling them, don't be like these Pharisees, this hypocritical way. You know what I mean? He's trying to get them to circumcise the heart, pull back that flesh of the heart, and allow the inside to be dealt with, so that it's not exposed. Because he's saying it's going to be, for those who follow him, it's going to be exposed. You know what I mean? It's not going to be, it's not going to be, he's going to expose because you're his, you're following after him. You know, because he said that specifically to his taught ones. It was a whole crowd of people around, but he said to his taught ones. You know.
Because really, how can you? I mean,
Yeah. It's impossible.
if you're walking in the way, you know what I'm saying? Something is gonna have to go.
Oh,
Right.
Circumcision.
Something is gonna have to go. Either you or it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you can't be in truth and not change. Something is gonna have to go. And it's like, I can understand even more so why that was so pertinent, because it's like, one, you're gonna represent the kingdom. Then you gotta rep right. And you're not gonna have my kingdom looking sideways. You know what I'm saying? Because of how what's in you. So one of the others gonna either you check you and you deal with you to get rid of the leaven, or you gonna be called out, publicly, which is worse. You got humiliation and embarrassment and so much more comes with that. And I mean, I thank y'all for grace, but at the same time, you know, there comes a point where it's like, gotta start doing something. You know, like that's how I hear it. You gotta start doing something
Yeah.
about, you know, dealing with that circumcision in your heart. you know?
Yes.
Because this way is right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And
Showing it to
you can't dilute and pollute,
Mhm.
you know, this right way with that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The one thing with the truth,
Mhm.
you can say the truth, and you can stick with the truth.
Mm.
You can always be the truth,
Yes.
True.
but not so with a lie.
Amen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
If you stay in a lie, you gotta keep on lying,
Mhm.
Right.
and after a while, you'll keep on changing the lie.
Right.
You can't take it, lies purpose.
Mhm. That's right.
You gotta stick with it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is true.
That is good.
Lies. Just like lies, are just like a snake.
Yep.
There's no words. Yep,
Keep on.
Keep on telling them.
yep.
Tell one after the
I
other.
got your words. You can't stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
I would always catch the police, always can catch somebody with a lie.
Yeah, they sure can, because they're trained to look at it, to see it.
Yeah.
They train us.
Story change up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and that's what the word said earlier in one of our scriptures. It's better to judge yourself,
Yeah. Right.
you know, or have someone else that you can confess your sins to, you know, talk to you and bring, you know, prick your heart, and you be convicted by it, than to be a hypocrite,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
The truth will make you free or set you free.
Yes, it will.
His disdain for that is so big. You know, you
Right.
serpents, spawns of vipers. How can you escape the penalty of hell? You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, like, you know,
He
y'all
does
saying
not
do a
like
whole lot of
that.
hell and brimstone kind of
Right.
thing, you know, but it was like when he said it,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it just brought out like, I can't stand this right here.
Yeah.
You know, even the I'll spew you out. You know, I don't
Yes.
want no lukewarm,
Yeah.
like all this middle ground in the middle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
playing
I like
both
that.
sides, like that really
Yeah.
like gets under his skin.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you know, and I see where, yeah, the grace is for you to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
But just the hypocrisy of knowing that you're playing both fields,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you, better,
Nope.
you gotta do something about that.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta do something about that.
That's right.
One or the other.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I take it even further because I always look at relationship.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
just like how we would be in a relationship. You ain't gonna deal with me and deal with her.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right,
You ain't gonna
right,
play me like that.
right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? I don't want some
That's
of
right.
you and then you go and share you with her and
Right.
her
Yeah.
and her. You know what I'm
That's right.
saying? No,
That's right.
no. I want all of you. I
Yeah.
want, you know, and
Well,
it's
no.
always relationship
Yeah.
Yeah.
like minded. It's like we
And we understand it.
understand that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We
Right.
understand how that makes us
Because
feel.
he's in relationship with us.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is, when we read that scripture about it being proclaimed, you know, was done in the inner rooms, will be
Right,
proclaimed
from the
out.
high
Nami and,
rooftops.
in Ezekiel, when he's bringing Ezekiel, is it in Ezekiel? I think it's in Ezekiel, when he's bringing him around, he's showing him what they're doing, what the prophets and the priests are doing. He's saying like, look, you know, he's taking them, he's like, they in the inner rooms in here. These ones are weeping the Tammuz. They're doing idolatry. They're in Jerusalem, in the temple and stuff, in the inner rooms,
Right.
and they're worshiping other idols and gods and stuff.
Right.
And like y'all's like, it's as if. The same thing in the context of relationships is as if y'all's like as if I don't see them. Like you're in the
Right,
room,
right.
I see you.
Right.
You're right in front of my
Right.
face.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Right.
y'all don't see each other. Like I'm showing Ezekiel because you probably don't know what's going on, but I'm showing you. You know what I mean? The same way, like if you look at a relationship, it's insulting. Like you can discern or have an intuition that somebody's your
Right.
is doing something. You know,
Right.
and be like, and you think I'm stupid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You got that feeling, and it's like, you know, you're waiting for it to come out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we understand that. You know what I mean? And y'all's like, but I'm y'all.
Right.
Yeah.
I see everything, and then I know even what you're not doing. I know what's in your heart. I know what's in
Right.
your thoughts. I see it all.
Yeah.
And you're acting like, you know, so it just has to be insulting. So let me bring another human. Look at what they're, look at this. Look at this. Like,
You know what that reminds me of, and they're used to hearing it because I'm always giving this example, but I'll never forget when I was teaching the blind.
Oh yeah.
And this one girl, Janet, some were legally blind, which meant they could see a little bit, and some were totally blind. And those totally blind kids would be under the steps, kissing and making out, and Janet would be sitting in the classroom, digging and scratching everywhere, like nobody could see her, because she can't see. You know, they couldn't see,
She
so
thought nobody
they
else
didn't think
see.
nobody else could see her. And I have to constantly say, Janet, you know, you're in the classroom, man, chill out.
That's funny.
You know, and the couples under the steps, we were always snatching them.
Yeah.
You know, because just because you under the step didn't mean nobody's not
Can't
gonna
see
walk
you.
by and see you.
But that's funny.
And
Because
that's how we act.
that's how we are, because
Yeah.
we think that nobody else can see.
Right,
Just be-
especially him.
Right. And just because you're, you know, even to stuff, just because we're blind to something,
Yeah.
we think that
Right.
everybody else must be blind to it too.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
What stood out to me is when he said the leaven of the Pharisees is hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's like, stay away from that. Because the way, like you said, just how he went down the road,
Mm-hmm.
he was expressing himself vehemently.
Yes, he was.
I hate this.
Yes.
Call them whitewashed tombs.
Right.
Dead bones and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because the heart, it's like when we can confess to each other what's in our heart and get things right, and when we can have that vice versa, like you were saying, Mr. Leon, have it going back and forth, and how that can bring healing.
Yes.
Because the scripture says, confess your faults one
One
to
to
another, so that
another.
you may be healed.
Right.
The effectual fervent
Prayer.
prayer, righteous
Avail,
man
avail.
much. It's like, you never really see that done, where it's fruit actually coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people say they do it, but then it's still the same thing.
Where's the fruit?
But like you were saying, Mr. Leon, about the circumcision of the heart, you know, this is my prayer constantly. I check my heart. You know, I have to constantly check my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Create me a clean heart with my right spirit within me. You know, show me me. Show me my heart. If I'm wicked or whatever, I need to know. You know, because
Right.
you know better than I do.
Right.
You know me better than I do. You made me. You're the manufacturer. I'm the product. So you know what's in the product.
Right.
You got the
Right.
manual.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How the product runs.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one way that I pray. You know, to check myself.
Right.
And because people who really know me know that I like to have things right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to have things right. I don't like no craziness going on. I like things
Some
right.
schism.
Yeah, you know. And if you have to confess, do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, keep your heart clean, keep it right, man. Because when I ministered to people at times, I said, God, He's really concerned about your heart.
Mm-hmm.
What's inside of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what matters. This is like the seed in the apple. Outside of the apple, it's pretty. Fruit is delicious, but the seed on the inside is what He's concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
because from
good.
that seed can grow a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Either a good apple tree or a bad apple tree.
That's good.
But the heart is like the seed, but that seed is like the heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that produces right fruit. You know, and that's one of
That's
my
good.
prayers. God,
Amen.
my heart, I want to be right constantly before you.
Yeah.
You know,
That's good. I like that. Seed in the apple.
And that's the
that's for real, man.
and it's funny, like you talk about how angry he was and expressing it like you know, he has an anger looking towards them, but they had the same anger in response. Like their response was, let's kill him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's basically looking at them saying, like, you imagine you trying to deceive somebody, but they're looking at you like, I see you.
Yes.
I see you.
Yes.
And he's looking at them like, I see you.
And they hate
I
him for
see
that.
straight through you.
Right.
And they're feeling exposed, and they're like, we gotta kill him.
Yeah.
Right.
We gotta get rid
Because
of him.
because that
That's right.
exposure took
Yeah.
the power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hated him for
They
it.
hate
Yeah.
him for that.
Yeah.
You know, when truth is revealed, when wickedness is seen,
Yeah.
you know, especially with manipulation and
Yeah.
control, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, once somebody see it, it's like,
That's
oh, you
it.
ain't got no power with me no more.
That's right.
You know, you can't
Yeah.
control me with this.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it was like, oh no.
Yeah.
You know,
They ain't
he's
gonna
taking
mess
our
up
power.
our
You know
thing.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, we've been running this way for a long time.
Yeah.
And controlling the people with this for a
Yeah.
long time. And he came in here
Yeah.
with that whip.
Wow.
You know, even
Yeah.
without the whip. You know what I'm saying? But you know, and with that truth,
Mhm.
you know,
They
yeah.
still couldn't see it because the circumcision of the flesh or the heart was so thick that they actually rebelled. Like you said, they rebelled back
Yeah.
against them. I'm gonna kill you.
That's
Because
the
you're
only-
making me see myself, and,
Yeah.
and I
See
can't
it,
let you
right.
do
There's only
that.
two options.
Mm-mm.
Either
Right.
you're gonna you have to keep that hard and that stiff neck, that hardness,
Right.
you know, and I gotta get rid of you. Like you gotta silence you, silence that voice.
Yeah.
Or you have to surrender. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the other option. You surrender, you know what I'm saying, and you allow him in, you know, to deal with what's going on in your heart, which requires vulnerability that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
power is not trying to give up their power and be
Right.
vulnerable to give their power to somebody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and that's what we have to do is to give up that whatever
Hmm.
strength is holding up that
Yeah.
wall. You know what I mean? You have to let that go and allow him to come in, allow truth to come in. You know what I mean? And bring you to a place of sincerity. You know what I mean? And start cleansing that stuff out. So like they weren't having none of that. You know, it's like
That's
no,
right.
we're not having that. So that the only option is to silence that voice. You know.
Right.
That's why the scripture says, "Don't quench the spirit."
Right.
You know that when the voice spirit speaking to you and showing you things, if you quench it, if you silence it, and then you left to your own devices, you left to yourself now and your own conscience and way of thinking what's right and what's not right, because you quenched the voice of the ruach. You know that's what we're doing. The same thing.
Right.
We don't listen to the ruach. We're doing the same thing that they did to Yahusha. And we
Mhm.
gotta silence you. Like I ain't trying to hear that.
Right.
You know, whether it's the ruach within us, or the ruach speaking to us from somebody else,
Yeah.
you know, hearing it through the word.
Yeah.
We're quenching the spirit if we don't, and we're doing the same thing if we don't allow him in to be able to deal with those things. Yeah.
Your sins will find you out.
They sure will.
Those sins will find you out.
They sure will.
Mhm.
At some point or another. Let's turn to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5,
21.
verse 21. Let's start at verse 20.
Well.
For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees,
Good.
you shall by no means enter into the kingdom of the heavens.
Wow. Wow. Exceed.
Seed.
Exceeds.
All right now.
That's on the seed.
Yeah. No taste into God.
You heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that whoever is wroth with his brother, angry with his brother without a cause, shall be liable to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. But whoever says, you fool, shall be liable to the fire of Gehenna. If then you bring your gift to the slaughter place, and there remember that your brother holds whatever against you, leave your gift there before the slaughter place and go first in peace with your brother, and then come and offer your gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one thing about this, he's not even saying if you have something against your brother. In this particular verse, he's saying if you know that your brother has something against you.
Yeah.
So if you know that, so he's saying that when you're going to offer your gift at the altar, if you know that somebody has something against you, they have some kind of art with you or some kind of something, before you offer that gift to Yah,
Yeah.
go and make peace, make things right with your brother first.
Mhm.
And then come back and offer your gift, because it's doing the same thing. It's trying to you're trying to make some type of peace with Yah before you
Make these.
Right.
make peace with what you already can see down here on the earth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like so, and he talked about this in the context. He talked about you shall not murder. He said the scripture said you shall not murder, but I'm saying to you, you should not be wroth with your brother without a
Be
cause.
angry, yeah.
And you know, so having this anger and expressing this anger towards your brothers, and said if you're going to offer a gift, whatever that you know, if you're going to pray, you're going to praise, you're going to enter a feast, you're going to do these things that are your offering up to Yah. He's saying before you do this, and you know that something's up with you and one of your brothers, go make that right first. Go make peace with them first, and then come back and then offer whatever you're going to offer to Yah.
Yeah.
Amen.
I'm sorry. Raka is Aramaic for empty one, like empty-headed or foolish. The Hebrew word for empty is rake. The insult today might be airhead, and in the Hebrew, reka is good for nothing. So it goes from being from a lighthearted thing to a deeper thing, because when you say airhead, that's one thing. When you say good for nothing,
Something else.
that cuts. You know, that's cutting. You're going deeper into that person's value. But then it's so interesting that he says, and whoever says you fool, and that's a word that we say loosely.
I've seen that a lot.
You know, we say that loosely. Shall be subject to fiery Gehenna. You know, so, you know, we're not just throwing around words when we speak. There's power in our words. And we're either gonna bring life or death with what we speak. And so that was something that stood out to me, that he looks at what we say, you know. But I had never seen that in-depth definition given for raka, you know, because in most of the translations it has equals to similarly to foolish, but it never went to any depth with that. So it's like we can start out one thing and work our way. By the time we keep calling that name, it gets to a deeper name, which becomes insulting to who the person is. But then he says, when you say thou fool, you know, you can look forward to going to hell. You're gonna pass through the fires. So that's something that stood out to me, that even what we say means a lot to him before we bring that offering, that peace offering to him. Not just what we do, but what we say. You know, and it goes out farther than just those words. You know, but just whatever we say as believers, you know, to another person or about another person. You know, because remember, he calls slander murder. You know, because you can't get your reputation back when somebody slanders you. You know, people have to know you really well to just not believe it. But when you know how they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. If a lot of people keep saying it, people are going to believe it, whether it's true or not. So I just thought that was interesting that he brought that out as well before we could bring that peace offering, you know, for forgiveness.
Oh my God.
You just cursed them.
Wow. Sister, Minister, Apostle Dinner, what do you do? Because you have to watch what you say, right? Because it could come to fruition. What do you do when you have an outrageous heart? When you just want to rage out? I mean, because God knows our humanity. Do we just repent afterwards, or just? I mean, because to say, I'm not.
You
gonna,
have to repent.
just repent, because what she said is
But you
going
don't.
out.
But you don't plan to say it.
Right.
You know,
It just
if it came out in your anger,
right.
you know, then you can repent of it. You know, And you can ask for forgiveness and repent, which means don't do it no more. You know.
That's a tough
So, but because of grace, we can go back to him and continue to ask for forgiveness until, because if you're really sincere when you repent, when you ask for forgiveness, he knows in your heart you really, really didn't want to say that.
Right.
But if that was in your heart, you're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're not going to work on it.
Yeah.
But if you're working on a thing and you wind up sinning or doing that thing that's in your heart, then, you know, when you say those words to that person again, then he's going to know really what's in your heart. So by the Spirit, he'll help you to remove that, because he knows you can't do it in and of yourself. But the fact that you're admitting to him, I don't like this. This is in my heart. It keeps coming out. I need your help. So I repent from it. You know, Lord, forgive me, you know, from what I've said, but not just putting it aside and saying, you know, if I get this way, this is just going to come out, you know, because that's just, you know, that means, well, have you been born again or have you not? Because when you're born again, when you're born, you learn how to do all kinds of things. And you learn how to walk, and then you say, well, I'm not going to walk no more because I'm going to sit right here because I don't want to go and do that for them. So I'm going to just stop walking. You know, we don't do that.
Right.
You know, but we do that with what we say. So you're either born and reborn or you're not. You know, and little by little, but when we're born, he helps us little by little until we become mature in those things. And that's when it becomes critical, when we know better and we just throw that out the water. Yeah.
well, that soothes my heart so much. When you first started talking, my heart's going, but when you put the end of it, what you just said, my heart went. Because I was not ready to say this today. And I'm like, God, Apostle said we're supposed to watch me say, what am I going to do with this? That's why I brought it up.
Yeah. You're gonna mature in that just as well as those other things that you mature about. That's just as important. Or you're a hypocrite.
Circumcision of the heart.
Circumcision of the heart.
That's
That, you know,
constantly has to be worked on.
I feel like it's, you know,
Constantly.
some things that we don't understand. Like the one person we can't lie to is ourselves.
Right.
You know, you like you
Right.
Yeah.
you know you. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like you know what sincerely you're working on to change
Right.
and do better, and you know the things you're not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And my thing is, whatever part that you know, it. I feel like the bigger question is if I'm feeling this way in my heart,
Right.
you know, or I'm feeling this way in my heart, and so this is coming out, and you know, I'm not working on it. I'm
Yeah.
not
Okay.
changing it.
Right.
I'm not,
Right.
you know, I'm
Right.
just allowing this to continue.
Yeah.
Then my question is, well, y'all, I need your help to show me why.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Why do I do this?
Yeah.
Right.
Why do I to allow it? You know,
That's
why
good.
why am I not working on it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
We can't run from that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Especially as grown people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know that attitude is nasty, you know, the way you talk, or whatever it is that you do, like you know the truth of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if I'm not working on this and I know this ain't right, why am I like this?
Yeah.
That's right.
Why
behind it?
why am I allowing this to continue? You know what I'm saying? Or why is this so hard?
Yeah.
You know, for me. Because that answer is where you need him. You
And
know what I'm
that's where
saying?
you'll be set free,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
when he shows you why.
Right.
You know.
Because when you ask him, he will show you where
He
it's
sure
coming from.
will.
You know, like he will reveal it however he reveal it, but he'll show you.
Yeah.
And
For
then
real.
and then the truth of that
Yeah.
is when you go, man,
Uh-huh.
I gotta do something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and the surrendering part
Yeah.
Right.
of, yo, this is crazy. I don't want,
Mhm.
your heart already. When you see the truth of it, your heart immediately
Right.
wants to change. You know, your heart immediately is like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be attached to that, or wherever this
Right.
came from, or whatever, you know, whatever that comes from. I don't want to be attached to that
Right.
anymore. But you know, help me now, Spirit,
Right.
to, you know, show me how,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, and the sincerity of changing,
Yeah.
the sincerity of wanting to change.
That'll preach.
Yeah.
That's what he's after.
The sincerity to want to change.
Because
Yes.
whenever we leave here, whether by sleep or rapture, you know what I mean? Like, however we leave here, we're not gonna leave here with it all lined up.
That's true.
But we gotta be in the process. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, we gotta be in the process.
That's good.
So, you know, don't feel that condemnation. That's what I'm getting to. Don't feel that condemnation
Right.
when stuff is coming out. It's like, get down to the bottom of it.
Okay.
Because you can, like what Minister, it's like you don't know how to control that.
That's right.
You don't even understand where that's coming
Came
from.
from.
You know what I'm saying? Or why. You know, why you have that within you.
Yeah.
You know, but when you surrender that or begin to seek y'all, well, I don't know how to change this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't even know why I'm like this.
That's
Or
right.
I don't even know why I care. You know, I like it. You know what I'm saying? It feels good when
My
you
flesh
know,
is happy.
to my flesh and I don't know why I'm like that. You know what I'm saying? But I know according to your word, I can't,
It can't be like
that.
that.
Yeah.
So what do I do?
Yeah.
Basically.
And that's maturity.
Yeah.
Work in
It is.
progress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's good.
Mhm.
And when I first repented and came back to y'all, I cussed a lot. And I was like, yeah, I want him to help me stop cussing. And I asked him like, why can't I stop? And I realized he was like, why are you so angry? That's when it would come out. I'll be mad at something. He was like, why are you so angry? So that was the part of the heart that he started digging into. Like, let's look at why you so angry. Like, what's going on? You know, and he started digging into that part. Like, you know, the thoughts that I was thinking. You know what I'm saying? So it was a whole lot of stuff to that. I get mad. I'm cussing because I missed the bus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, just what is wrong with you? Why are you know? So he started digging in. So he ain't gonna fix the stuff flying out your mouth. That ain't what you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We have some level of control. You know, you know, in certain atmospheres.
That's right.
You know, but that's not going to stop until you fix the root.
Why you respond the way
Then
you respond.
you start healing that part and fixing that part. Then there's nothing to come out because what's in the heart is going to come out. You know what I mean? It ain't too much stopping that. You know, but when he deals with what's in the heart, then you get new fruit.
Yes.
That's right.
Something new comes forth from that. You know.
Yes.
I'm a witness to that because I was a cusser.
Yeah.
Same here.
And I noticed that when he delivered me from that, it was almost like I didn't know how to talk. It was like, well, I'm not using this and I'm not using that. You
What
know,
I say?
it was like, Father, help me to put my language together again because I don't even know how to use words outside of this. That is really sad, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have to be mad. It was just a part of my regular conversation because I was associating with people who spoke that way. And I had to look at that, you know, in my changing right now as a babe in Christ and Messiah. Am I too weak to be around these people? You know, am I strong enough to be around them? Or because, you know, a lot of people say I'm going into that bar to save people, they wind up getting drunk, you know, because there's somewhere in their heart there was that desire to be in there, but they thought they fooled themselves in their mind that they could do that. That there was the enemy getting a grip of your weakness to cause you to sin. So, you know, a lot of times we don't realize the things that we do have become a part of us, a part of our lives. And we can't cut that loose unless we want to, unless we ask for his help. And when we ask for his help, it's always about getting to the root of it. It's always about getting to the root of it. Yeah.
Otherwise it'll keep going back.
Mm-hmm.
I got
Yeah.
one thing, guys. I know that I can't watch movies with Samuel L. Jackson.
I
That
don't.
specific word he used to
Right.
use was my word. It was just.
I
you know,
don't.
And I can't, but I tried it before, and, you know, I found myself just flowing again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the spirit of, you know, I opened myself up to the
Mhm.
atmosphere.
Right.
And here, you know, just, it's like, man.
I'm
you just
offended
say-
by it.
So I
Cut
don't
it
watch
out.
nothing,
Right.
you know.
And that's what we need to
You know,
do.
you know, he in Avengers, he ain't doing that, but the other movies, he's
Right. Right.
You know, he couldn't even do a commercial without ad-libbing the curse
Ad-libbing
word
the
on
curse
it.
word.
When he first started doing those, bank commercials. What is it?
The what's in your wallet?
Yeah, what's in your wallet? You know, he would
Capital
use
One.
Capital
Capital
One.
One.
He would say, and you know D well,
Yeah.
such and such and such. And I noticed that they cut that out, that after a while, when you saw him do those commercials, he wasn't using that
Yeah.
anymore. And see, as an actor, I knew he was ad-libbing that word. I knew that wasn't in his script, you know, and they took it out, and they made him say,
Yeah.
you know, such and such and such. So I don't know if he disagreed that he couldn't ad-lib those words, or if that time just ran out for him to be like the sponsor, you know, the one, the
Representation.
representation of the company. They changed the whole theme of the way they advertise Capital One now,
Yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, I choose not to.
Yeah.
I choose not to. I just choose not to. I know it offends me now. It offends me now instead of causing me to begin to speak that way. It's just very offensive. Yeah.
Yeah. That's real. This is good.
Okay,
We in 18.
yes. So we read in Matthew 5, that if you know that your brother has something against you, that you go to them. Even if they haven't come to you, you go to them.
Right.
You know, to deal with the issue. So that's one. And it was flip over to Matthew 18, chapter 18, verse 15. Verse 15 says, and if your brother sins against you, go and convict him between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother.
Yeah.
So this is the opposite of it. It says if your brother has sinned against you, you go. So in either case, if you are conscious of, if you're conscious of the fact that somebody has something against you, you should go to them.
Right.
Or if you, or if somebody's done something against you, then you should go to them. So either side of the fence, if you're
Right.
conscious of it,
Yeah.
you should go. You know, so you should both be going to each other. You know what I'm saying? Ideally, we should, on either side, we should be seeking peace and seeking to reconcile. Whether I have something against you or you have something against me, or some kind of issue, underlying thing. You know, we have these underlying things sometimes that we don't like to deal with. You know what I'm saying? It could be a lie. It could be something that, you know, we deal with stuff with people always talk about jealousy, but jealousy is something that people deal with. You know what I'm saying? It's a reality.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about those are certain things. There's certain things that you don't want to be exposed. Those things that we talked about in the inner room. Sometimes the inner room is just your own spirit and your own heart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you don't want it to be exposed. There's certain things you have to expose and deal with. So it's things that you deal with people that it's not always. Sometimes it's offense. Sometimes it's literal, like you owe me some money. Sometimes it's, you know, I know you're talking about me, and I know that you're talking about me. You're gossiping about me, and I know that you are. You know what I'm saying? Somebody told me that you are. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna say nothing to you, but I'm acting like everything's okay, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's all kinds of things that we
That's
just deal
right.
with that just
Games,
are under the
people
surface.
play.
You know what I mean? So he's saying if you know that it's an issue, you should deal with it. Go to them. If you know that they got an issue with you, go to them. If you have an issue with them, go to them. So it says if your brother sins against you, go and convict him between you and him. So it's given a way to do it. Go directly to them, just between you and them.
Yeah.
That's the first thing it says. And if they hear you, then you gained your brother. You've worked it out. You got peace. But it says, but if he does not hear you, take with you one or two more. So it's saying sometimes you can't resolve it between just you and the person. You need to take somebody else with you. So it says, if they don't hear you, take with you one or two more. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word might be established. And it says, if he refuses to hear them, say it to the assembly. So if it's an issue, you try to resolve it with this person, you brought somebody else in and try to resolve it, then it says, now bring this to the assembly. assembly know what's going on. And it says, if he refuses even to hear the assembly, let him be to you like the nations and a tax collector. Let him be like an outsider.
Yeah.
So it's saying if the person refuses, because it's a hardness of heart, you know what I'm
Heart
saying?
thing,
And that little bit of
yes.
leaven will leaven the whole
Lump.
lump. You know what I mean? That's how you
Yeah.
get gossip going around. You know,
Yeah.
somebody's bitter,
Yeah.
and that bitter person is talking to this person, and talking to that person, talking, and it's going all around. You know, so
Yeah.
that little bit of leaven is leavening the whole lump.
That's
You know, so
right.
that's why they say to put. We don't see this happening all the time. They say put the person. They won't.
Put them out.
If they won't resolve it, and that means that they're blocking Yah out, and they're not allowing Yah in their heart,
Yeah.
and that's dangerous. You know what I mean? So it's saying give them all these opportunities, but if they won't do it, then you gotta
Put 'em up.
disassociate yourself from them until they decide to get it right.
That's right.
That's for real, man.
Yes.
I've never seen it done except once.
So then,
Yo.
What you find? And Jessica said it. Why? That's about now. Why? What you say?
But they gotta figure out why.
Why? And it's
That
got to
person's
show
gotta
'em.
figure out why, because with all those examples of what they should do, he's already trying to help them, but they're refusing to help.
Yeah. So yeah. So
And a
there's
lot of
someone-
people will say they forgive. Now everything's all right, everything's all right. No, we don't have to talk about it no more.
Ah.
Everything's all right, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah, it's not.
But you know, you gotta know what to get involved and know what not to get involved in.
Right.
I had a person this week called me, telling me what's going on in the church. And then when I wouldn't agree with him,
They get mad.
then they got upset with me.
That's right. They get mad.
They told me that they're going to get in the shower.
You go cool.
You know what I told them? I think that's the right thing to do.
That's a good one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, you gotta be careful, because people draw you anything, and then they go around and tell you what I
What
said.
you got?
Said,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I talked to so and so, and they agreed with me too. I
Yeah,
talked to
yeah,
them,
so and so
uh-huh.
in that church, you know.
Uh-huh.
You know, between the pastors and between the people in there, you know, and elders and somebody else in the church.
Have mercy, have
Put them
mercy.
around in there.
That's something I've read some.
I think a lot of that stuff people come out, call me.
What?
Put 'em out.
This what happens when you don't read your whole Bible.
Mhm.
Because, you know, we get caught up with certain scriptures
Yeah.
Mhm.
and use them out of context. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying this, but
Yeah,
the scripture that comes after that,
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And before sometime.
Yeah.
but this, okay, so we just read about how to handle dealing with each other, you know, when there's an issue, right?
Mhm.
And okay, so it talks about that, and then right after that, so after it says, so basically, if you've done everything, you know, trying to
Right.
make it right, and they still don't do right, you know, then let it go, you know.
Mhm.
And then it says, and I assure you, and most solemnly say to you, whatever you bind,
There you go.
forbid,
Yeah.
declare to be improper and unlawful on earth,
Yeah.
shall have already been bound in
That's
heaven.
right.
And whatever you loose, permit, declare lawful on earth, shall have already been loosed in
forbidden.
heaven.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, I see that as
Yeah.
Totally.
different than how we
Mhm.
normally use that
That's
scripture.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
it's like,
It is.
you've been trying to settle something,
Mhm.
both in the natural and in the spiritual,
Mhm.
with getting that right,
Right.
between you and your brother or
Mhm.
whoever.
Right.
So you try to make it right.
Right.
That person refuses to get right with you.
Right.
You know, so what has happened is now a lawfully binding
Mhm.
thing,
Right.
both in heaven
Yeah.
and in earth.
Has begun.
It has already begun.
Mhm.
So then, you know, that's like the judge hitting the guy on the thing.
Right.
Yep.
But people take that little
But we want
piece
to take
out
that,
of it.
I bind you, Satan. And
Yeah.
wait a
Not
minute,
what it's
hold
saying.
up.
Yeah, that's our
Hold
relationship.
up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow, whoa, like, I just
Yeah.
like, whoa, like mind blown.
Yeah.
But even more so, how powerful it is,
Mm-hmm.
to try to get stuff right. So here was my next question before I read that. It kind of sidetracked me a little bit, but I was going to ask, would you say that method, that way of handling art, is that equivalent to doing things in court? Or does it have to be the church per se?
Meaning, can you handle that like in a court setting?
Meaning like where it talks about, okay, you tried it personally, didn't work, you tried it with other people to help, that didn't
Witnesses.
work.
Right.
All right, then it says, but to take it to the assembly,
Yeah.
you know, how is that,
So like taking it to the court.
Like
Just
the
taking it to
legal
some-
way,
you know,
scripturally.
yeah.
Oh,
That's what she's asking, is that the legal way, scripturally?
Think you unjust man, think you unjust Lord.
Well, I can answer that firsthand. I've only had to do that once. My rule as a pastor is, first I talk to the individuals
Yeah.
individually. Then I bring them together. Then I bring them before a witness. There's one incident where I did bring them before the church. And the person was very offended and very hurt by it. But, and I had to do that because this person was spewing out toxic stuff,
Yeah.
against that person. And it was worse than that.
Yeah.
It was toxic stuff coming out of their mouth, putting that person down with no forgiveness.
Yeah.
Just judgment after judgment after judgment. And when I did it, the one who was doing that swore out that it was righteous anger. And so it should not have been brought before the people. And anyway, sometimes, even if it's your ministry team, we had to have that done here when Poppy was pastor.
Yeah.
We had to bring a person who had just been licensed before the bishop and the ministry team because of what that person was doing or saying. The congregation didn't know nothing about it unless she went out and told it. But, we had to do it that way. Bring it before the ministry team and your bishop or your apostle. And that person had one person witness to come with them, who was their best friend. So the best friend got offended with us, and the person got offended with us. So you were there. I was getting ready to say, you remember. So the thing is, and nowadays they're saying it's best not to do that, because you're going to send that person away. But if that person refuses to see they're wrong,
That's what the scripture.
then they don't belong there.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we put the person on probation because the whole church backs you up when you're licensed.
Yeah.
You're carrying our name as a covering, as the ones who witness that you are ready for ministry.
Yeah.
And that person was showing clearly that in this area, this particular area of their life, they were not ready.
Yeah.
So the circumstances, I believe, has a lot to do with it. Because there's a venom that can come out that can destroy your whole church.
Yeah.
And that person was a part of something that just about destroyed the church because of what they would say behind our back.
Yeah.
And people were listening to them.
Yeah.
And then people were so disgusted by it that they left.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why don't y'all do something about this? That kind of thing. So it does come in where it's needed, and I think wisdom has to be used in that particular case. You know, rather than just doing it for everybody that's got ought against somebody else or gets the attitude towards somebody else. I do believe that if it's affecting the body, I do believe that the leader should take them aside and let them know that what you're doing is affecting the body. Now y'all need to talk. I can be objective. You need to talk about this and put it behind you.
But I
So
guess
it's-
I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from, but I guess I'm looking at, you know, we can associate with people that aren't in the same church. You know what I'm saying? So when you're trying to make something right with somebody, y'all don't affiliate, you know, in the same house of worship. Y'all really don't affiliate with nothing similar, but, you know, what has you connected is, you know, you try to make it right. You try to make it right with amongst yourself, and then with, let's say, a counselor or a mediator. You know, you try to bring that scene, and then that didn't work. You know what I'm saying? So
it doesn't work.
you don't have a pastor, or you
I've
don't
been
have
through
a,
that
you know what I'm
too.
saying, like a spiritual leader to oversee that. All you have left is a judge, a jury. You know, so is that, I guess what I'm saying is that's looked at as trying to do things the right way. That's what I'm saying, as far as how y'all would look at the circumstance. Because I agree, you know, circumstances have to be kind of individualized as far as how you handle it. But if you don't have that kind of setup, and you're just dealing with a person, you know, it could be a person at work, you know, or somebody you don't really associate personally like that.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to go to that person.
That's why somewhere here he's talking to them. And he's rebuking them for taking people to court because it's amongst them. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like me and you going to court. It's like, really?
Right.
Y'all couldn't settle that amongst
And
yourselves.
it's written somewhere that we shouldn't take each other to court
Yeah,
that belong
yeah.
to him.
Yeah, that's
You
what I'm
know.
saying. So, but when you're dealing with somebody outside, you know what I mean? They're not a believer, or they're not, you know, they're not in a place where they're able to settle things the way that we should settle things. Then, you know, that's what you have to do. You know what I mean?
Unjust man,
That's-
unjust law.
That's the
Yeah.
right thing to do. But that's where the courts get the way they do
The way they
things
set
from the way the Hebrew people did things
things.
as a community. What Yah told them to do. And this is coming from him through Matthew. So it's funny that he said, let him be to you a pagan and as a tax collector, because he was a tax collector.
Yeah, they hate tax collectors.
So he knew how it felt.
Yeah. Yeah. So you brought out how that's a whole is a legal thing.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of the scripture that we take out, it says, I say to you that the two of you agree on earth concerning any matter that they ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in the heavens. It's the same context. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in their midst. It's all in the same context. So then Kepha said to him, Peter came to him and said, Master, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Yahushua said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. So that basically
Every time.
Every time.
continually,
Right.
you know,
Some people account 140.
for real. When you're 143rd.
You got 20 more sins.
Yeah, 20 more
And the
times.
Bible said I ain't got to forgive you no more. That's your 144
Yeah.
sins.
140 more times you come against me.
And so it says, if we keep reading, it says, because of this, the kingdom of the heavens is like a certain man. So he gives a parable that goes into the court thing. Kingdom of heaven is like a certain man, a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But as he was unable to pay, his master commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that they had, and payment to be made. Then the servant fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I shall pay you all. And the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. And that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii.
Yep,
And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, "Pay me what you owe."
yep.
Then his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, "Have patience with me, and I shall pay you all." But he would not, and went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what he had done, they were deeply grieved, and came and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master called him and said to him, "Wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt, seeing you begged me. Should you not have had compassion on your fellow servant, as I also had compassion on you?" And his master was wroth and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him.
Jesus.
So also my heavenly Father shall do to you, if each of you from his heart does not forgive his brother his trespasses.
That's right.
But somebody when you 50 cent, you hold it against you for 20 years. 50 cent, you want my dresser. Yeah, it was there when you in my room, man. It was there no more.
Right.
And that thing was like on your brain, man. 50 cents.
And y'all is
Very
continually
good.
forgiving us of all of our things that we
Yes.
continue to do against him.
Yeah.
So he's saying, how can you not forgive?
You
Continually forgive. He's continually forgiving us, so we should be continually forgiving. John 5:16.
This is good.
James or John?
I'm sorry, James 5:16. Thank you.
Very good. Wish everybody could do that.
You too.
Good. Just send them on a video. You know, watch it. That's your assignment. Watch the video. You weren't here.
Yeah,
you
everyone.
wouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
With the video that wasn't here. 'Cause this is essential. Y'all said
It is.
Y'all said it is.
Yeah.
This is
It's
a mandate to
essential.
get out to everybody.
Yeah.
Before we go into the feast days.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 16, confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another so that you are healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous one accomplishes much. Confess your trespasses to one another. So in the context of just in general, confessing, but especially when you sin against each other in some kind of way, or with some kind of or whatever against each other, confess it to, be willing to confess, this is what's going on. Confess to one another your trespasses and pray for one another.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a powerful thing when you can do that. You know what I mean? Like when you can settle something with a person and then and confess or bring out whatever that thing is and then pray for each other out of that, y'all hears that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That y'all hears that. It says so that you are healed, and then that healing comes. And it says the earnest prayer of a righteous one accomplishes much. The sincerity of that prayer, the power of that prayer, that's what y'all, once that reconciliation and that healing and bringing things up, like, that's what y'all want. So there's power in that.
That's
you know what I mean?
right.
That's why he says confess to one another.
Right.
Confess to y'all, you know my heart and I'm dealing with it. But confess to one another.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Then he used Elijah as an example.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we said Elijah prayed, was a man just like us, you know what I mean? And he prayed earnestly that it wouldn't rain. And it didn't rain on the land for 3 years and 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, brothers, if anyone among you goes astray from the truth and someone turns him back, let him know that he who turns a sinner from the strain of his ways shall save a life from death and cover a great number of sins. So to go to somebody, you know what I'm saying? Because if somebody has whatever, all those little things seem small, but it's sin in y'all's eyes. It is something that's leaven in somebody's heart, that's keeping them from being pure and sincere before y'all, and keeping them from walking in the truth. It's a hindrance, not just to, it could be just two people and it may not be affecting the rest of the body, but it's affecting them. That
Right.
affects the rest of the body.
Right.
You know what I mean? They are part of the body.
That's right.
So anything that's causing disunity, is an issue. You know what I mean? It
Right.
should be a priority for us. So within ourselves and with each other, if I have something with a person or a person has something with me, or if I know that somebody else has an issue with somebody else and they ain't trying to deal with it, nobody's bringing it up. They're on the outside looking in. Somebody should be like, somebody needs to sit down with these two. Like something's going on. Like what's up? You know what I mean? So somebody has to do it. It's our responsibility. If we see, then we're seeing for a reason. If we feel
That's
it,
right.
we're feeling for a reason. If it's revealed for a reason. Y'all's bringing it from the inner rooms and bringing it to the outer court so they can be seen and dealt with.
Yeah.
And sister, that makes us more appealing to other people to join our church too. Because if they visit and they see the love If they visit, they see contention, but the mess, they gonna leave and not come back.
Yeah.
But if they come and visit us and see, wow, them people are different, you know, since they're sincere, that might make them stay and bring other people too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
As well as the presence of Yah. Because when the presence of Yah comes,
His real
Yes,
presence
he
is
sees
there.
that.
Right.
He's not gonna want to stay.
Wow.
Exactly right.
He's gonna go. You know what I mean? Not the way that there's levels. You know what I mean? And there's
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Just like there's levels in a relationship. I can get
Right.
some people get this close. You know,
Mhm.
but if I
Right.
don't trust you, you ain't getting but
That's
so
right.
close. You know what I mean? So we
Right.
can talk, we can converse, but
Uh-huh.
if I don't trust you, I'm not gonna hang out with you. You're not gonna give me no more secret things. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like same thing with Yah, he might grace us with an amount of his presence, but if there's stuff going on, there's only but so much he can do. He can't demonstrate his power, he can't demonstrate his love, he can't demonstrate those things. And in that love and him and people seeing sincere, genuine love, which is what people need to see today,
Uh-huh.
there's power in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And healing comes out of that. You know what I'm saying? You can't fake that.
That's right.
You can't fake it.
Right, right.
That's
It's
constantly,
sincere or it's not.
that's constantly taking away that foreskin from the heart when we do that.
Mm-hmm.
Step
Mm-hmm.
by step. It thins it out so much that you'll be able to see through the foreskin to the
Mm-hmm.
point you can just poke it and it just, you know, it's not thick like
Mhm.
a callus.
Right.
You know, wow, this is beautiful.
Last scriptures. Psalms 139. Last two.
One of my favorites.
It's verse 23. Search me, O Yah,
Yeah.
and know my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Try me and know my thoughts.
Mm.
And
Yes.
see if an idolatrous way is in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
Yes.
Wow.
It's one of my
That's
favorites.
scary.
That's a bold asking of Yah. You're inviting him in.
Why?
Come in.
Yeah.
Search me.
Ah. Yeah.
Know my heart.
No, you said
No, that
that's scary.
sounds scary. And I said, why?
Oh, let's see. I guess scary because it's like, wow. You know, that's like when I realized the Holy Ghost knew everything, I got scared. He really know my stuff. Oh my God. It scared me to almost trembling when I found he knew everything. So this saying, him gonna show, wow, it kind of makes me shudder a little bit
It's asking him to do
to
that.
do that.
It's the one who wrote the song is asking him to do those things. Then after a while, when we know
Okay,
that he's not
gotcha.
going to strike us with lightning,
Lightning.
but he's going to come in and change us.
Changes. Okay.
You know, the person is asking him
Okay.
to come in and do that
Yeah.
for them because they know they can't do it on their own.
That's gentle. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. It's one of my favorites.
Go back up to verse 1.
Now, unless you scared, live the life you're afraid, let him in.
Yeah,
Exactly.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
That's it a lot.
Yes.
So he asked them in verse 23, but in verse 1 he says, "Oh Yahuwah, you have searched me.
That's right.
And
And know
know
me. Yeah.
You know my sitting down and my rising up. You
Yes.
understand my thought from afar.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
sift my path and my lying down, and know well all my ways.
Yes.
There is not a word on my tongue. For there is not a word on my tongue, but see, O Yahuwah, you know it all.
That's
You
right.
have closed me in, behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Knowledge
Yes.
too wondrous for me. It is high, I am unable to reach it. Where would I go from your spirit? Where should I
Yes.
flee from your face?
That's
If I
right.
go up into the heavens, you are there.
That's
If
it.
I make my bed in Sheol, see, you are there. I take the wings of the morning. I dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. There
Favorite
too your
scripture.
hand will lead me.
That's
Your right
right.
hand hold me. If I say darkness shall cover me, then night will be light to me.
Mhm.
Even darkness is not dark for you, but night shines as the day. As is darkness, so is light. For you possess my kidneys, you have covered me in my mother's womb. I give thanks to you, for I am awesomely and wondrously made.
Wow.
Wondrous are your works, and my being knows it well. My bones were not concealed from you. When I was shaped in a hidden place, knit together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body.
Yes.
And in your book all of them were written.
Yes.
The days they were formed, while none was among them. And how precious are your thoughts to me, O El. How great has been the sum of them. If I should count them, they should be more than the same. When I wake up, I am still with you.
Yes.
Oh, that you will kill the wrong. Oh, Elua. Depart from me, therefore, men of bloodshed. They speak against you wickedly. Bring your enemies to naught. O Yahuwah, do I not hate them who hate you? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? With the complete hatred, I hate them. Those are the people that hate not each other, but those who hate Yah. They have become my enemies. Search. Then he says again, search me, O El, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. So he's telling them in this whole thing. When he gets to that point, he's saying, Yah, rise up against your enemies. And he's telling them, you know me.
Right, right.
You know all my ways. And you know what's going on. He's crying out about the situation that's going on. So now I'm confronting you about these enemies. And he's bringing it back again to say, now search me.
Yeah.
Search me if I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Let me know that I'm wrong. Search me, O El, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. To see if an idolatrous way is in me and lead me in the way everlasting. So he's acknowledging that Yah sees everything. Contrary to the other stuff that we read today where people are trying to hide and all these type of things. He's saying, Yah, you know it all. You know what I'm saying? That's the right heart attitude. It says the fool says in his heart that there is no Yah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's foolish to be able to think that Yah doesn't see and know everything. You know what I mean? So he's acknowledging. So for us to, when we humble ourselves and acknowledge, Yah knows everything, sees everything, acknowledge who he really is. You know what I mean? Then we already know that he knows everything and sees everything. So then we invite him, another step, invite him in and say, look, I'm surrendering even more. Search me and then let me know what you see when you're searching me. What do you see? You know, when we invite him and he searches us, he does it in a way that he knows us. So he does it in a way that works with us.
Right,
You know? So he's going to do it in a way so we don't have to be afraid. If we're asking him to come in, we don't have to be afraid. You know what I mean? You can know that you won't have to let go something. You know, but he's going to walk you through that process. He's going to walk you through that. You know, it's a process. So it's the right step. The first step is understanding who Yah is, and once you humble yourself to that and that understanding, you're in the right posture. And now Yah can deal with you in the right way. Last verse, Psalms 51.
This even says, examine me and know my anxious thoughts.
Yes, that's how mine says it too. Yeah.
Psalm 51.
That's right.
Sometimes we don't even know. He got to bring it. It's like we asked earlier, like, I don't understand why I do this or why I'm thinking this or feeling
Yeah, I
this way.
got the why down here under that. I wrote it down there.
He has to show us.
I write in my Bible like a textbook.
Take the foreskin off my eyes so I can see my mind.
Psalm 51, 6 through 10.
My.
This is beautiful. This is true.
I'm gonna start at verse 1, and so we want to ask Yah, to bring it back to, we're going into the feast days and we're going to just in general, but as we're going into the feast days, to search our hearts, you know, anything amongst each other as first of all, start with this individual assembly in our individual households, all of our households and families in this individual assembly. If there's anything that Yah needs to search our hearts to bring out that we need to deal with anybody, if there's anything that we know other people need to deal with, like praying and asking Yah how to deal with it. You know what I mean? In this season where it's the season to sweep that stuff from under the rug and to deal with it. This is the season that grace is on us to be able to do that. So starting there first. If there's anybody, I would say from there, if there's anybody in other believers who are also keeping the feast that you're connected to, you know what I'm saying, they're going to be entering into this season too, so being mindful of that. Is there anybody in that realm that you need to be able to make some kind of peace with? You know what I mean? Then move it out to any other believers, period, that you're in relationship with, that you need to be able to make peace with or get something right with or something in your heart, you know, to whatever degree. So actually how to search your heart and to show you how to deal with those things, and we'll know it on the mat. It'll come up in our spirit. You know, you probably already know. You know what I mean? It'll come up. You know what I mean? Yah will show you, and if you don't know, ask Yah to come in and search your heart and show you. You know, so anything that we need to confess or we need to get right in ourselves. You know what I mean? So I'll start at verse 1. It says, "Show me favor, O Yah, according to your loving commitment, according to the greatness of your compassion. Blot out my transgressions and wash me completely from my guilt. And cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against you alone have I sinned, and done evil in your eyes, that you might be proven right in your words. Be clear when you judge. See, I was brought forth in crookedness, and in sin my mother conceived me.
Yeah.
See, you have desired truth in the inward parts.
Yeah.
Yah has desired truth in the inward parts.
Yes.
And in the hidden part, you make me know wisdom. Yah will give you wisdom. Just like we said, he'll go to the root of the heart. He'll give you
Yes,
wisdom
he
in that
will.
inward part. He'll go to the heart of that thing that you don't know how to figure out. He'll go to the middle of that thing and give you wisdom as to
Yes.
how to deal with that thing and bring it out and bring it out and deliver you from it.
Amen.
Thank you, Father.
In the hidden part, you make me know wisdom. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I am clean. Wash me, and I'm whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my crookedness. Create in me a clean heart, O Yah,
Yes.
and renew a steadfast spirit within me.
Yes.
Create in me a clean heart, O Yah, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your set apart spirit from me.
Ooh.
Restore to me the joy of your deliverance. Because if you're not, we talked about grieving the spirit. If you're not listening and you're quenching the spirit, then what do you need it for?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if I keep talking to you, you don't listen. I'm stop talking.
Right.
You know, do not take your set apart spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your deliverance, and uphold me, noble spirit. Let me teach transgressors your ways, so that sinners turn back to you. Deliver me from blood guilt, O Yah. O Yah, my deliverance. Let my tongue sing aloud of your righteousness. O Yahuwah, open my lips, and that my mouth declare your praise. For you do not desire slaughtering, or I would give it. You do not delight in ascending offering. The slaughterings of Elohim are a broken spirit, a heart broken and crushed.
Yeah.
O Yah, those you do not despise. Do good in your good pleasure to Zion. Build the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will delight in slaughterings of righteousness, in ascending offering, and complete ascending offering. Then young bulls will be offered on your slaughter place.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's something.
Love it.
You do too.
Love and
Desires
songs.
a heart that's broken, a broken heart before him, and a contrite spirit. That's what he desires. That's the offering that he desires. And then he'll build up the outward things. Then he'll build up Zion and Jerusalem. Then he'll give you a place to offer things to him.
Right.
But he's saying, first get your heart.
Yeah.
Get your hearts right before you go to do these offerings.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a contrite heart and allow me to search your spirit.
You know, sometimes in the Psalms, when I've been down and have not known what to say, I pray these Psalms to him. I asked him to let that be my prayer, because sometimes you can't. I know with me, I can't always put the word. I don't want to be saying the same thing over and over again. And I look through them, and I've always done this since I came back to Yah. Is go through the Psalms and see what I can pray to him. You know, what comes from my heart concerning me. That the psalmist has written, whether it's David or whether it's another psalmist. You know, it's excellent for that, for repentance.
Another song by Fred Hammond.
Give me a
In
clean
the
heart.
contract,
Yeah.
I just thought.
Give me a
I
clean
just-
heart.
Yeah.
Is that what
Give
it
me a
is?
clean heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a,
Well, that's zombie close. But give me a clean heart is on there too. Yeah. Because I love the line that says, I'm calling out to you for a strength exchange.
Yes.
You know, I will gladly take your joy for my weakness.
Mhm.
You know, give me a clean heart. You know, and that,
Yeah. That's from the song.
right, and that's.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Can we exchange my best for your greatness, please?
Yeah.
Praise y'all.
Praise him. Awesome lesson.
So next weekend we're going into the new year, and we have about 2 weeks after that we're going into we'll be doing pesach. So over these next days and weeks, we want to be asking y'all to cleanse our hearts and help us get the leaven out and dealing with whatever things we need to make peace with ourselves, with people, with y'all, and being mindful of this. And so we'll make sure that everybody who's not here gets the lesson and everything. So
Amen.
we're all the same,
That's good.
the same ruach, the
get the
same
video
spirit.
and watch it.
Yeah.
I don't want feedback, but make sure you watch it. Yeah, that's how I really watch it. You got it.
nice shepherd.
He came us allow like the shepherd. You know, the shepherd.
Take that book.
Stand
Word.
right. Uh-huh.
Thank you for the lesson.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Does anybody feel led to pray us out?
I'll pray.
I was looking at you.
Very good. Alright. Okay, let's bow here before y'all. Most gracious and heavenly Father, Father, we bless your name, and we recognize you as God. Thank you for your presence tonight. Bless the conversation. Bless our teacher. Bless our hearing of the word and applying it to our lives. Show us how to give our hearts to you, Father, that you fix them, but sometimes we may not want to. Bless Shepherd Daryl, Pastor Dina, Minister Jessica, and Minister Leon, and Elder Ryan. That all sacrifice their time, God, to pay you attention. Please bless us all as we exalted. Father God, we know you look upon us. You don't see enough things. You see your son. So God bless us accordingly. So we have not because we ask not. So I'm just asking God. Bless all our loved ones and those who are not here tonight. Get them away to get the message because it's important. I bless you, God. And I thank you for my people who I lean on and depend on. Bless you, God, as you bless our ministry. Increase it as you see fit. When and how. We want other people to know what we know, God. And it not be secret to anyone that we know. In Yahushua's mighty name we pray. It is all we say, home, and our loved ones that we left them. In Yahushua's mighty and matchless name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
That was beautiful and sincere.
Beautiful.
Praise the Lord.
You were the one. You was the woman for the job tonight.